Is that the BBC calling it? Or CNN? Al Jazeera. Kganki and I have known each other, I think, probably for the 20 years that I've been on this entrepreneurial journey. And when he wasn't as great as he is now. Yeah, we've known each other for a long time. But for those in the room that don't know you as well as I do, Kganki, would you take us back to your origin story? So where did Kganki start?
Perhaps maybe let me start by thanking, by thanking Lina and also CPO for hosting. I've known both of them for some time. I suspect we are the same age group. I have known them for some time as well. I think 4, 5, 6, somewhere there.
Was it the Mercedes-Benz deal?
Yeah.
Was it made? Yeah.
I come from a village in Blunder called Matabane, and like most of the people who finished school there didn't know what to do. But even those who knew what to do didn't have the money. So after the trip, I worked as an assistant teacher.
Okay. You did?
We want a breaking transmission. I don't want us to lose quality of this chat. Can you try to scream a little bit?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we can.
Oh, sorry, okay. So I was teaching maths, accounting, and economics.
Okay.
And I think that's how I raised my money to be able to pay for tertiary education. I paid for first semester, and then from there, I got bursaries. And as they say, the rest is history. So I'll just touch things that basically inspired me. So those who are my age also know starter forts.
Yes, we do.
I used to work as starter fort Eastgate.
Okay.
Fridays and Saturdays.
And that was a big one, eh? That was a big step.
And Lucas didn't have a car, so some Fridays we drop off at 9 o'clock. Get a lift. I was staying in the park. Get a lift that drops you in town, then you must walk. So I was marked a few times as I was walking to Auckland Park. But I think whatever they were marking, they were taking from me was not necessarily worth it. It was not much. So I didn't have much to lose.
There's no cell phones there, right?
No.
Yeah.
Just before the cell phone.
Okay.
Yeah, so then what else did I do? Then I went in last day at the mine, one of the ethical mines for 5 years.
So you went from Auckland Park to Rustenburg?
Yeah.
For 5 years? Wow, that must have been a change of note.
Yeah, it was, because those who maybe come from rural areas probably understand. I think I was maybe 23, 25 when I was in Rustenburg. And the challenge with those places is that you find that there's a gap from a social life point of view. So you've got people who are doing matric, and then you've got like the 30-year-olds upwards. Because usually what happens, people in the rural areas, once they go to university, they never come back. So we're there getting paid relatively well, but you couldn't have a social life. Because there were no younger women who had left.
Because that's the social life.
And the men who are there will be, and then in the money we will know those days they were mainly employees men. So the professionals who are there will maybe 99% men, and so we'll have to then every weekend travel to Johannesburg from Boston.
For your social life.
Yeah, for the social life. There was not much to do there.
Okay.
And it was just after apartheid ended, so the pubs there in Rustenburg were full of Afrikaners. So a few of my friends were beaten now and then because you go to a pub and then they said, "Let's not allowed."
This is dangerous.
Yeah. So fast forward, I think one of the board membership that I enjoy is with the Santako people in Uganda. So I serve on the BRT board there. And I mean, it's very, very interesting. Because remember, taxi people are not used to waiting for money for long.
Yeah.
They need to get their money today and then that's it. But also the way they resolve problems.
Very informal.
They shoot you first and then they can ask questions later. But I've learned a lot with them because once you respect them, you work very, 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 very well with them. They're able to listen to you, listen to your advice. So I managed to get them, some of them, to be professional board members.
Okay, so at this point, so now you've moved from Rustenburg back to Joburg, Ekurhuleni, so must be the east of Joburg, right?
No, that was like a serious fast forward.
Oh.
I'll skip a lot of other
Yes,
things.
because the question for me is, are you studying through UNISA at this point? Like, because you said you paid for your own tertiary.
Yeah, I started through, that time it was called Technical SA, became UNISA,
Yeah.
and then I did the PhD at Gibbs, and then I later did the MBA at UNISA.
Yeah, remember that period in your life, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so then I decided let me move from finance because maybe I studied finance I was mainly doing finance and I moved to operations because I sort of realized maybe let me try and be in the core business because that's where the main decisions are made. And then fast forward.
I'm keeping up.
I was a chief operating officer at Centel.
Yes.
And the part that I enjoyed there was I tried to assist Centel with establishing Centel in the continent. And I think I've learned a lot there. You get into a place. I remember I went to Uganda. Trying to meet with the Museveni there.
Oh wow, that must have been interesting.
And I think I went like there on a Monday. We kept being promised nothing will happen. The meeting will happen. Until 2 weeks passed, and we decided to come back without seeing it. Because remember, unlike South Africa, most of the countries in the continent, they don't have the laws that we have. So the ultimate decision maker is the president.
Yeah.
So if you don't get the blessing from there, you're likely not to.
You'll wait 2 weeks in a hotel.
Yeah. But there've been so many lessons. Like we went to the Gambia, and we missed the ferry. So what happens there? There's a river to cross, and then the ferry is called there's a time where I think it's like 8 o'clock where they close the gate. So if you are this other side, this is Tanzania, and you are this side, they close the ferry. You can't do anything. So the ferry, they put the car that you're driving with, in the ferry, and then so it's almost like a bridge, moving bridge, and then they drop you the other side. So they dropped us there. We couldn't pass. We had to sleep there, and the mosquitoes were like so huge. And we managed ultimately the following day to go to the Gambia. When we came back, got into the plane. the tickets are manual, so they are written. Handwritten.
This was in, what year is this?
It's not at all. Let me see. 2017.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, you don't even get allocated a seat, so.
Choose one. First come, first
so I just thought let me share some of the highlights.
Yeah, but Kganki, here's the thing. You go from Stutterford to Celtic. What? I mean, that is inspiring, right? And along the way, obviously, you are fast forwarding through the story, but from working at Stutterford to being mugged in Auckland Park to being COO at Celtic at this point, right? I'm sure your family must have been so proud. But even for you, did you ever encounter imposter syndrome while you're sitting at that boardroom table at Celtic? Did you ever feel like, oh my word, I'm actually here?
No, I didn't, because maybe before Centec, I used to work for Business Unity South Africa, so part of what I was doing is what we call economic diplomacy. So I used to accompany the president to countries, other countries in the world. So we meet with the IMFs and the World Banks, the BRICS, and the presidents of other countries like China, Russia. So I think even before I went to Centec, I've been in other places where I never thought I would ever be in my life. So by the time I went to Centec, I think it was a small thing, relatively speaking.
Now I know that the stats say, I think it's a Harvard study or Stanford study that says that more women tend to suffer from imposter syndrome than men. You know, it is the monkey on our backs. We just have to shake it off, right? But did you ever suffer from imposter syndrome?
No, not necessarily. But it's not an easy thing, I think. Maybe if one can try and explain, because you know, like even now, majority of the people that I know, they have this challenge of being the only one. So you find the rest of the families here, and you are sitting here. And it's very, very difficult even when you're at home to have a conversations with the rest of the siblings, because the gap is just too big.
Yeah.
And that then creates a gap between your kids and their kids, and so this thing just goes on. You try to help them, and some of them you are able to help them pay for their school fees, but some of them then they take that thing for granted.
Yeah.
They never finish their studies, so it's just very complicated to be black and trying to succeed.
I think it possibly goes back to one of the conversations earlier then, around the guilt that some of us tend to suffer from. I did, without a doubt. The guilt around turning over millions, being in a position to buy that SLK through that Mercedes, and actually deciding, and I remember making that decision so vividly, it's actually still visceral for me, to buy a Getz, right, because of my guilt. And I think about it today and I'm like, baby girl. And yeah, I was young when I started it, you know, but I look at my younger self now and I'm like, this was actually no reason for me to feel that level of guilt. You know, but obviously therapy, counseling, coaching has helped me get over that stuff over the years. But I think a lot of us do suffer from, I don't know if you can call it success guilt, or what do you call it? I don't know, you know, but
yeah, it's difficult. So let's say you are sitting at at a restaurant in Saxon. The food there per person is like 1,000 rands. You are with your family. You are like 5. That's 5 grand. And then you go to a funeral at home in the village, and then someone asks you for 50 rands. And you think, sure, but maybe it's even your relative. And with that 50 rand, they are going to buy bread, they are going to buy serious stuff.
Yeah.
So you're about to feel guilty. But at what time do you say, let me also live a little bit? And I think maybe you are right. I think counseling helps. I do consult clinical psychologists most of the time because there are certain things that you can't share with your family. There are certain things you can't even share with your wife. You can't share with your kids because you don't want to burden them with your problems.
Exactly.
So it's a very, very, very complicated thing to be a professional or business person who's trying to succeed. And I speak to a lot of people who say, I've got a business, I've hired people, but people are not sharing my vision. And I always tell them, but it's not their business. You know? They are there to work. If there's a task that needs to be completed and it's 4:30, and they knock off at 4:30, you can't blame them by when they want to leave. Because they are not, it's not their company. So it's difficult to find someone who will share your vision, especially a typical professional. So you need to be able to understand that there are professionals who want to succeed on their own, and then there are those ones who are just saying, I'm just going with the flow, I'm just working. So the ones who are ambitious, they will stay those hours, but anytime they resign, anytime they can resign, they are there, but with one foot, the other foot is somewhere else. They're hustling. So once the hustle happens, then they go. And then if now you've entrusted that person with everything, you must start from scratch. But now you've got these other ones who are not ambitious. They're going to do as little as possible just to keep their jobs. So you have to balance between the two.
And I think it was Pat that mentioned over and over again earlier that he had to understand his values, right? Especially when he alchemized that pain into power. Values became important to him. So I think when it comes to this question for me, and this is what I always say to early stage founders, is that, and it's something that I heard on a podcast by Lewis House, which I love listening to him and just getting different perspectives. And he said the one thing that has helped him be successful in his current romantic relationship is that they share the same vision, values, and lifestyle. If those three things at a very basic level you align on, then you're bound to be more successful in the relationship. So when I heard that the first time, I was like, I think this applies to business as well. You have to surround yourself with people that share a similar vision, same values, and same lifestyle. Otherwise, you're just gonna get people that's gonna be knocking off at 4:30. So I think as part of your recruitment process, as an entrepreneur, as a founder, when you appoint an HR person or whether you're doing it yourself, as part of your recruitment process, you need to make sure that the people that you are recruiting share your values, I think, and lifestyle, and definitely buy into your vision, right? Because I think especially early stage, it's so important that you have people that's gonna drive the vision. Because your role as a CEO is to appoint a team that's gonna get things done and for you to sell. That's it. Okay? That's your two main things that you need to do as a CEO. But I don't know if you agree with that. As the CEO of the Black Business Council, I think I'd love to hear from you that transition from COO at Centec to CEO at BBC. What is one of the main leadership lessons that you've learned?
Yeah, so you let's start. Because when I got there, it was basically a baptism of fire. So I got there in December, and you know, coming from a proper business where you get paid, your bonuses, all those things. So I took a salary cut first.
Okay. That's great.
Then I get there, there's no money to pay salaries.
Oh wow.
So for the first 3 months I didn't get paid.
The cut that you agreed on.
Yeah, the little that I was supposed to have been paid. And I decided to say, but I've got options. I can leave, or I can stay and build. And I've decided now let me build. I believe in what is called baby steps. I decided no, that we'll build a little bit by bit.
Okay.
And because of the scandals that were involved in, it was even difficult to meet anyone. You know, corporates, the way they work, if you are going to tarnish their names, then they don't want to associate with you. So they, I think from where I'm sitting, obviously I can't try to evaluate myself. I think one has managed to rebuild the BBC.
Say it with your chest, of course you can.
Because,
Say it with your chest. You did the things.
Because I think we were basically now in the center of everything.
Okay. So the ship is steady.
Yeah, we're in a much better position.
And well done, Kganki, own it. I mean, getting into a space in December where salaries can't be paid, and you're not being paid for 3 months, and you're turning that around. What? I mean, it's not ego. Wasting before secret. It's not. It's just being proud of the work that you've done.
Yeah, but I think last thing I wanted to share. Because I interact with businesses. I also have some small businesses that I'm running. One of them was a student accommodation. I had to sell it because we were running it part-time. And later I realized that the person who was running it was running his own business within my business. He'll tell me.
Values. Back to values.
Yeah, so I think we had like 30 rooms, and then he'll say only 10 rooms are occupied. But the rest were occupied, but they were paying him. And I think the lesson there is that perhaps one should have appointed a proper person there to run the business with the real incentives. Because what I've realized, most of the business people, especially the small ones, and hence we're having a challenge of black businesses moving from one generation to the next. It's because the founder or the CEO becomes everything. And they don't even share how they are making money. So that's why even the son can't succeed them, because they've got their own way of making money, and maybe sometimes not even conventional way. So if someone comes and succeeds you, where do they start? So I think we need to find a way to say, how do we bring our kids into the business? Because the challenge is that the unemployment is high. So if you started a business, you must be able to employ your own kids. Because otherwise, where are they going to get jobs from? They can't get them from big businesses. But we need to find a way of running the businesses as businesses. Because most of the business, I used to do financial statements for small businesses. At the end of the month, someone brings you like a cupboard full of invoices.
And it's tops and it's spa, and it's checkers and pick and pay, clicks.
It's school fees and this. And you say, but
why are you not paying yourself a salary?
Yeah, no, most of them, they just take the money. If they need the money, they just take. So we need to try, and it's very difficult, I know, but we need to try to corporatize ourselves. And then separate yourself from the business.
Absolutely.
Because you never know how much money you are making. If someone, because I've worked with some people, they are driving on the freeway, a Toyota test overtakes them, and then they check the bank balance, they've got like 10 million following day they're going to buy a Porsche GTS because they can't be overtaken by the circumstances while they've got 10 million in the bank.
Yeah.
And hence I think most of the people are reluctant to appoint boards. Because when you appoint someone else who's going to tell you, corporatize this thing, in your mind you are thinking you are losing power. But you'll never grow if you don't go that way. And your kids will never be able to, if something happens to you, kids that will never be able to inherit anything.
Absolutely. I thank you so much for highlighting the importance of having processes and systems. And again, I think as a founder, understanding your role is to appoint a team. Stop appointing PAs at the beginning of the business. Once you've just started, you have PA so that you can be at networking events and say, call my PA, right? We have to stop that thing. You need to appoint a team that's going to be driving the vision from the start. And as part of that, before they step in, you have to have processes and systems in place that they can follow and run the business without you being there. And I think that's what sets the greats apart. I mean, if we all look at it, right? A Zuckerberg is no different to a Kganki, is no different to an Anton. He might have dropped out of Harvard, but he's no different to any of us in the room. Right? But what makes their businesses different is that when Zuckerberg decided to formalize Facebook, he appointed Sheryl Sandberg. And she then, from an operations perspective, turned the whole thing into a proper business and corporatized it and got investors on board, etc., etc. Right? So, or the investors were there, but they had to corporatize things. So I think that's what we have to acknowledge as small businesses that struggle to scale is the lack of processes and systems, is the lack of, I think also ego, not the lack of ego, but the overflow of ego, so that I don't want to be overtaken by a Taz. I want people to call my PA, you know, all of that stuff, all of that fluff is what gets us into so much trouble, right? But thank you for sharing that, Kganki, and for highlighting the importance of having processes and systems, because I think it is vital. And even just for sharing the transition from Centec to BBC and what you actually had to walk into. And congratulations for turning it around.